Due to the instant pounding in her head as the dim lights of the bar pierced through her heavy eyelids, she staggered and leaned into him. She squinted, trying to make sense of her surroundings, but everything seemed to be a blur. The last thing she remembered was downing one too many shots of whiskey, and that was it. Nothing else came to mind. She looked up to see a tall, handsome stranger gazing at her with concern etched across his rugged features. "Are you okay, miss?" he asked, his voice smooth and soothing. She struggled to remember where she had seen his face, and the more she tried to gaze at him, the more her eyes began to close. Ophelia nodded. Not as an answer, but trying to shake off the effects, though, the motion made her head spin. "I'm fine," she slurred, attempting to stand on her own but failing miserably as her legs threatened to give way beneath her. She fell into his arms, surprising him. She felt so warm to the touch. He looked at her for a brief second, making sure she was breathing. When he saw that her chest rose and fell, he cradled her and took her out of the bar. When they got out of the bar, the cool air hit them, such that she woke up instantly. "Where am I?" she slurred. "You're safe, don't worry," he said, reassuring her. "Where's your car?" he asked, looking around at the almost empty car park. She managed to point at a car that looked 2 centuries older than the woman in his arms. "Where did she get that from?" he said to himself as he carried her to the car. When he got there, he searched her purse for the keys and found them. He dropped her from his arms, opened the door, and guided her to sit down. He made sure the door was locked before going to the driver's seat. Ophelia hardly noticed anything. She was in and out of sleepiness. She had seen his face, but she did not know if she was just dreaming. She had thrown all inhibitions to the wind and was ready to drink herself into a stupor, which she succeeded in doing. Once he sat in the driver's seat, he looked at her and readjusted her to the seat, hooking her seatbelt in place. He tried to do things to wake her up so she could tell him where she lived. When he noticed she was moving, he asked, "Should I take you to the mansion? I remember that when I saw you." "No, not the mansion, no," she said, moving her head back and forth. "So, where?" She sluggishly pointed at her dashboard. On it was an address to an apartment. As soon as she pointed to it, she continued to sleep. The man sighed in exasperation as he tried to look at the address. He took out his phone and wrote the address down, searching for it on Google Maps. Once he finally got it, he turned the ignition, and the engine sprang to life with an embarrassing cry. "How old is this thing?" he said to himself as he moved the car, heading to his destination. He put on some music in hopes that she would wake up, but she didn't. It seemed like a lullaby that enabled her to sleep even deeper. He looked once her way and shook his head. He wondered why she drank herself to this point. Part of him was pissed off at her. She seemed to him like an unreasonable person who cared nothing for her own life. Not long after he got to the apartment, he took her purse again to search for the keys. He sighed in relief when he saw that the keys had the number of the door on them. He parked the car, went around, and scooped her out. He cradled her into the apartment complex. As he was climbing the stairs, a group of people were coming down, looking at him as he was carrying her. They murmured among themselves incoherently as they all looked at him. He didn't bother with them at all. His mission was to take her home, and he would do just that. In no time, he got to her door and opened it. He carried her inside, making his way to her bedroom. He dropped her so that she could sleep on her side and took a bucket from her bathroom, placing it beside her just in case she wanted to throw up due to the amount of alcohol she had guzzled. When he saw that she was okay, he left. The next morning, Ophelia woke up in her bed feeling a loud, banging headache in her head. "Ah," she cried painfully. She remembered that she had drunk yesterday, but she did not know to what extent or how she got home. She just knew she had got home. She sat up on her bed, holding her head. She noticed that there was a cup of coffee beside her that wasn't there the previous day. She picked up the cup and saw on it a sticky note that read, "Drink me." Was someone in my room? Who could this cup be from? And why would they use one of my sticky notes? She wondered. As she was thinking, she put the cup close to her mouth and drank the coffee. In no time, the headache subsided. How did I get into bed? How did I even leave the bar? I saw someone, I know I did, she said, holding her head, trying to think of who it could be that brought her home. In no time, she realized it was no use because she couldn't remember anything. She found her purse beside her. Dipping her hand into it, she found her phone. She checked the contents of her purse, and nothing was stolen from her. She checked the time and saw that it was almost time for work. She was grateful she woke up 30 minutes before time. At the same time, she thought about how she got there. It was still a mystery and a puzzle to her. Could it be some kind of angel? But I think I saw that biker guy. Or maybe that was just my imagination. Oh God, I drank too much yesterday, she said to herself regretfully. She immediately got off the bed and made her way to the bathroom. She took a quick shower and got out. She wore navy blue pants with a sky blue shirt. She packed her hair in a bun and picked up her handbag. She remembered she did not know where her car keys were. She went to the living room and found her car keys on the countertop. She also found her house keys in the same place. She took both of them and left her apartment. In less than 30 minutes, she was already at the office. This was why I picked the apartment close to the office. So even if I'm late, I would still be on time, she said to herself as she stepped out of her car and headed for the Calvin and Claire building. She had not even sat down in her cubicle when Mr. Harrison called for her. She hurriedly went to his office to find out what he required her to do. "Good morning, sir. You asked to see me?" she said, looking at the man. "Yes, you will be going to Prescott Technologies. There is a list of the product materials that we need for the next batch of makeup we are producing. Make sure that all the products are given to you because I don't want a repeat of last time," he said, tossing a file to her. "Sir, this is not part of my schedule," she said matter-of-factly. "Are you talking to me that way?" he shouted. "This is the last time I will do another person's job," she replied. She came forward to his desk, took the file, and hurriedly went out the door, leaving him in complete shock. She picked up her bag and headed to her destination. It was no news that she was given other people's jobs to do as well as hers. Regardless of doing it successfully, they still called her incompetent out of jealousy. Ophelia was the most beautiful woman you could ever meet. Her thick blonde hair, naturally full lips, and her piercing blue eyes made her bosses want her and her female colleagues jealous of her, which caused many problems for her at work. Ophelia came to Calvin and Claire because of the prestige of the company and her love for makeup production. She had not been given a position that she loved, but she worked harder than anyone. The drive to Prescott Technologies was short, but tense, Ophelia's knuckles white as she gripped the steering wheel. It had been a horror story for her ever since she realized she would be making frequent trips to that office. Condescending receptionists and brusque executives who seemed to take pleasure in making visitors feel small and insignificant was all Prescott was known for. By the time she got to the reception area, she went to the office that always gave her the products. When she got there, she met a woman. Usually, it was a man who was there. "Good morning, madam. Please, I would like to pick up these products." The woman ignored her, refusing to speak to her and continuing to press on her laptop. "Madam, I said I wanted to—" "Shut up! Don't you see I'm working here? Do you think I came here because of you? Nonsense. I was only asking about— Asking about what? I told you to shut up. You are not supposed to keep talking and distracting my work," the lady stated angrily. "I'm not going to take nonsense from this woman or anyone else anymore. They all think I'm a pushover? They will see me," she thought to herself as she looked at the lady closely, her blue eyes turning cold as ice. "Hey, lady, that's enough. Don't talk to me like I'm nobody. If you enjoy talking down to people, wait for those people to come, then you can talk anyhow you like," Ophelia shouted firmly, her voice unwavering as her eyes locked with the woman's. The woman could not help but shake in fear at this lady before her. "Are you talking to me that way? Don't you know your place, young girl? I was never disrespectful to you. You were to me, and I'm only defending myself. I don't feel you should be talking to people anyhow like that, especially as you don't know tomorrow's hand." The woman wondered what kind of girl this was. How could she talk back to me? She thought to herself. I suggest you go in there and get me my product materials right now so I can take them and leave. Please hurry up, I don't have all day," Ophelia said matter-of-factly. She had promised herself that she would stand up for herself, especially when it came to people who liked to bring her down. For once, she did that today. The woman got up from her seat and went to get the package. It took her a good 20 minutes to do so. When she finally arrived, she placed Ophelia's package in front of her and then proceeded to sit down and pick up the receiver beside her. "Hello, is this the product manager's office?" she said, waiting for a response as Ophelia watched her. "I am Katrina, the receptionist at Prescott Technologies. I have a lady here you sent to pick up some product materials. She has been very rude to me and even insulted me. I'm really disappointed in your company and how they approach matters. Please see that she's disciplined because I cannot take such nonsense from her. I may only be a receptionist, but people in my office respect me," she said as she waited for a response again. "Okay, thank you very, very much. Please see that you do," she said, hanging up the call. It was obvious to Ophelia that she had decided to take the path of war, and Ophelia was ready to give it to her. She held her product materials to herself as she looked at the woman straight in the eyes, who was looking back at her with a smile of achievement. "So, you think you have succeeded in doing something? I'm really surprised at you thinking that would stop me. It's not me that should be taught manners, but you. A common receptionist like you should also know that her place is to welcome the guests and not be rude to them. How long have you been a receptionist for? I'm sure it will be very long. If this is your attitude as a receptionist, I'm shocked you haven't been sacked yet. I'm sure you will be sacked within the next few days. Do you think this is like the CEO's office or like you are a managing director? Get over yourself, old hag. I hope through the call you have made you have achieved what you wanted to accomplish. I don't know why I'm wasting time talking to someone like you." "Good for nothing," she said, turning around and heading out, leaving the woman in a daze. "Can you imagine how she just spoke to me?" the woman said, her voice echoing in Ophelia's ears as she left. As Ophelia reached her car, her mind raced with the weight of what had just happened. She started the ignition, her hands trembling from the anger boiling within, and began the slow drive toward her office. As she drove, she made a promise to herself. "No more will I take this nonsense. No more."